Hello, everybody. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And you guys going to love today's guest because how often do you feel that you need somebody who has the real firewall of human firepower and who can help you with emotional intelligence in cyber security? If you're like me, I'm super excited about the conversation, and you guys can meet him right after this. Hello again, my name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show, and I'm super excited for today's guest. We spoke a little bit before the show. I'm super fascinated about all the things he does, and our followers know we do the ethical stalking, so we kind of checked him out for the last few weeks, and we said, oh my God, we really need to have him on because when you take out just one syllable in the end of what he does, it's absolutely amazing. So, but today's guest, he is not just brilliant in what he does. He is a champion of emotional intelligence, communications, and trust. He owns a company in cybersecurity, and I think you guys are going to meet him right after this because he's the CEO of Blue Goat Cyber. With that, Christian, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Christian, for having me on. Not every day I run into another Christian on a podcast.
So, yeah, to our audience, we were laughing just before this. Is with a name like Christian, he's going places. So first off, I'm super excited about this conversation. It's also something people worry about if they say it or not. Cybersecurity for me is I think it's the future, and then I worry about it. I worry about it for my kids. I worry about it for me. We internally, my staff knows we change our passwords every 4 months, and it drives them crazy. But that's just we trying to do our part. But with that, Christian, talk to us. How did this whole thing start? How did you how were you the founder of a company called the Blue Goat Cyber? So give us a little background. How did it all start, and how did you wind up in cybersecurity?
I used to be in the United States military, the Air Force, and I did information assurance in the Air Force for about 6 years. And then I did Department of Defense work, a little bit of freelance work. And then I started my first cybersecurity business in 2014. With that business, we did medical device or med tech cybersecurity. That was part of what we did, but it wasn't our focus.
Yeah.
I sold that business in 2020 to a publicly traded company. And while I was working for the parent company, I developed 6 blood clots in my left leg and almost died. So thanks to a medical device, a portable Doppler ultrasound was able to quickly diagnose me. And after recovering from the blood clots and the depression that resulted, I decided maybe this is the universe telling me to start a new company and focus purely on med tech cybersecurity. So that's where Blue Goat Cyber came from. So I leveraged the experience I had in my first company and listened to my near-death experience.
So for me, I by the way, to our audience, my father-in-law he was a senior master sergeant for the Air Force. So as I learned that Christian's background was with the military, I felt an instant connection. And then also hearing the drama you went through. So talk to us a little bit about that, because we have some of our listeners, they are in a place where they feel like there's no way out. So talk to us a little bit. How was that for you? What did you feel like finding out that you had all of these blood clots? So talk to us a little bit about that.
I had just done 120 burpees. I was in pretty good shape. I've done 24 Ironman triathlons. So literally the night before I went to the hospital, I did 120 burpees because I was in good shape. And then a friend of mine, I told her I thought I pulled a muscle behind my knee, and she told me I should go to the hospital, that I might have blood clots. And I'm like, whatever, blood clots don't happen to people like me. I'm an athlete. I don't get blood clots. Yeah. But I promised her I'd go. So I went first to the urgent care, and they told me I have to go to the emergency room. So I went to the emergency room, and they told me I had not just one blood clot, but 6 in my left leg. And I kind of freaked out because I was there by myself. My nearest family member lived in Denver. I was in St. Louis at the time. And the doctor said I came out and told me I had 6 blood clots, and I don't know anything about blood clots. So I'm like, what does that
Yeah.
mean? And he said, well, it means you can have a stroke or die at any minute. And I'm like, okay. I kind of started freaking out and like silently crying, like tears are running down my
Mhm.
eyes. And I'm thinking about my
Yeah.
life. Like my life is playing over my head. Like, did I live a good life? Did I go for it? Did I matter? And he kind of saw me freaking out. And I think in an effort to be compassionate, he said, kind of in a nonchalant way, he's like, don't worry. I see this all the time. That's what he's told me. And I immediately like
Yeah.
snapped out of my daze and got kind of pissed off. I'm like, you know what? I don't see this all the time. This is a first for me. And I think he was trying to be empathetic, but he didn't,
Mhm.
it didn't work. So yeah, after that, they gave me some blood thinners. I went and sat in my vehicle and just kind of cried in the parking lot thinking, man, my life is over. I couldn't do anything I used to do. I couldn't run. I couldn't hike. I couldn't travel. So yeah, I just could sit around and do nothing basically. So
I,
yeah, it was challenging.
if you don't mind, so for me, I find it fascinating because I think if there's one constant in life is that you're being tested all the time, and there's things
Mhm.
coming at you on at a quick pace. Because if it doesn't come, you don't play at a high enough level,
Right.
and having anything and saying, hey, I'm freaking out if I have one blood clot. Okay. Having 6, you did it much better than I did. And then hearing that, hey, you could have a stroke. I mean, can I go back? I mean, how many people hear this? Hey, you have this thing, and you never knew that you had it. So for me, that's absolutely fascinating, where life can change in an instant. And for me, my audiences, I had a little setback, and for me on Thanksgiving of last year. But for me, um, looking at this, there's 2 ways of doing that. And the first is, you know what? Hey, I'm not meant to do this, or hey, I just, it's just what it is. I'm giving up. Or you could do what you did and totally say, hey, I can persevere. You know what? This is not my outcome. This is not what I sign up for. I will do something totally different. So, talk to us a little bit. How did you work through this? Because this is not an easy thing, number one, to work to. The second thing is, how do you get clear that you want to do something in your field? And for me, that alone, and to our listeners, is so critical because I know that there's 50, 60,000 of them listening to this show. They struggle with. And
Mhm.
it could be something that doesn't really need to be to your level, but if it comes at you and you're not prepared for that, it doesn't really matter what you have. So talk to us a little bit. How did you get out of that, and how did you get clear, saying, "Hey, I want to do something for the medical field"?
Well, it wasn't easy. I At first I was grateful that I was alive, but as I mentioned, everything I used to do was off the table. So I was sort of
Hmm.
just existing and surviving versus thriving, and I felt I did not have agency over my own life. So I was taking these blood thinners and just kind of going through the motions of life, and it was really sucking my soul, to be honest. So
Yeah.
one day I just decided that I'm going to stop taking the blood thinners. I was looking at the bottle and I just threw it across the kitchen. And I'm like, I'm not taking any more of these. I'm going to go get every single test done on my blood. I'm going to get another ultrasound done on my leg. And I'm going to reclaim my health and make some informed decisions and not listen to what the
Hmm.
doctors are telling me. I'll take it under advisement, but nobody
Yeah.
cares about my life more than I do. So
Totally.
it took me a while to make that decision because I went from grateful to feeling trapped to depressed, and I knew I had to do something because I was like sinking basically. And when I made that decision to stop taking the blood thinners and to reclaim my health, it's more of a decision to reclaim my health. and take agency over my life. When I made the decision, everything else kind of clicked into place. I gained the confidence then to start a new business. I gained the confidence to step up in my relationship. I gained the confidence to start training again for another triathlon, and just, everything shifted from that one decision. But it was a challenge to get that one decision. I had to look at my life and think, I don't want to live my life this way. I'd rather live my life on my own terms than on some doctor I saw for 5 minutes terms.
Mm-hmm. I love that, because going through something similar to it than you, for me, what was really clear is everything I do, and when I go to the medical field, that's just really a snapshot of my life.
Mm-hmm.
How is he going to make a determination on how I live? How is he going to make a determination of how I can be better? They are being trained in a certain way, and unfortunately, medical, and giving somebody medication is for them, because they want you to live as long as you can. But what the medication does to you, and for me, that's what I learned over the last few months, was something I could actually have no symptoms from. Somebody else, it could kick their behind. And, vice versa. They take something, they have no symptoms. So for me, I learned that it's really up to you. And I love that what you said, that, hey, you knew that you needed to reclaim your health. You knew that nobody has more interest in your life than you do. And even though the doctors want to make sure they see you healthy, because their job is to keep your life as long as you can. And if it's on the medication, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. So for me, I absolutely love that. So you, in that stage of denial, you are on depression, you have this epiphany where you're saying, I want to do something else. How did you find the strength to do it, number one? And who around you were your cheerleader? Because I also know that when you do something, you need somebody who sees in you what you don't see in yourself. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, my wife now, we were dating then, and she's a nurse. So mm-hmm. She kind of had the opposite effect. She's like, you can't just stop taking the blood thinners. She's like, I don't want to end up spoon feeding you, the rest of your life. So she kind of had the opposite effect. I mean, she wanted me to reclaim my health, but she wanted me to do it smarter than I did it, probably.
That's fine.
So I made, it wasn't like a rash decision. I did assess the risk. I did get all the tests done. But yeah, after I made that decision, she convinced me. She's like, you've already had a cybersecurity business. And I was thinking about going into real estate at the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, why don't you just start another business and focus on medical devices, since you did that in your first business, and a medical mm-hmm. device saved your life. You've got an origin story around it. Maybe it's God or the universe telling you this is what you should do. And it seems like she told me something I was passionate about, because I am passionate about, bringing innovative technologies to healthcare to change lives. So yeah, she gave me, the push in one direction, kind of held me back in another direction, told me not to do a full Ironman, because initially I was going to do another Ironman triathlon, and she said I need to get more tests done before I did that, because it's, quite a bit of strain on the body. So I got those tests done and postponed the full Ironman. I did a half Ironman, but not a full one. But yeah, I had someone there to help with that, which is good. But ultimately, even if she did not support me, I would have made the same decision. Mm-hmm. It may have taken me longer to get the decision to start a new business, but it wouldn't have taken me longer to decide to reclaim my health, because I realized in that diminished state I was in, I didn't want to live a longer life that I was just surviving versus thriving. I'd rather live a shorter life where I feel like I'm killing it or thriving. I realized that just going through the motions, I wasn't showing up very well for her either in a relationship. I was, like I said, I wasn't feeling like enthralled or fulfilled. I was just feeling like I was surviving, which plays out in other aspects of your life. It's hard to go for big things, you feel like you're just surviving.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. And by the way, I love that your now wife is a nurse, because she probably said, "Ew, what are you talking about? You don't want to take that stuff? You crazy. you know. So for me, I, I love that. So I want to hear a little bit more about the Blue Goat Cyber, but I'm also super fascinated about the smartest person in the room. Can you talk to our audience a little bit? Where did that come from?
The smartest person in the room is the first book I wrote. It came from my first cybersecurity business. I realized 99% of the problems I had in my company were because my staff lacked emotional intelligence. They were highly rationally intelligent, as a lot of people are in high-tech industries, but they didn't have the emotional intelligence. So this was causing friction with clients. We were talking over clients' heads. My team wasn't collaborating well because people were looking for an opportunity to prove how smart they were.
Yep.
So what I ended up doing was, over several years, I refined the culture. I changed my hiring process. I did lots of training with my team. I had to let people go that didn't want to adapt. And I ended up writing a book about that journey, those 7 steps I feel like worked in my organization and helped me transform as well, because I used to be one of the people that wanted to be smarter than other people all the time too, and look for a way to prove I was smarter. And I realized that was holding me to glass ceiling, and it was holding my company to glass ceiling. But I saw the problem differently as the CEO and leader of my company, because I knew I couldn't get to the next level unless I solved this challenge, which I did.
I love that. And our audience knows. So I own a publishing company. And for us, we help people in the hospitality space write a book in 8 weeks or less. And it's not about the book. And this is really to our audience. I honestly feel, and our internal goal is that we want to have 1 million people over the next 10 years write a book, because it's not about the book. And I want to talk to you a little bit more, because it's who you become writing the book. That was for me the biggest thing. And our audience knows I wrote 14 books for a company I work for. And then now I wrote 30 something books with my publishing company. But for me, I go back the day I said to my wife, hey, I want to write my own book. And she says, absolutely, you should do it. 5 years later, what are you doing? Oh, I'm editing. And she says, how much longer are you going to edit the book? You just need to hire somebody.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm telling you, a book is the single best way for you to learn who you actually are. And I want to talk a little bit more about with you. So how did the book come? Did somebody encourage you to do it? What did you learn about yourself as you wrote the book? And did you self-publish?
I attended this event in 2019 called the Genius Network event, and I'm actually have this bracelet right here. I had it made before the event. It says "Belong" on it. Probably can't see it, but it says "Belong." Yeah. So I had this Genius Network event. You had to have a business over $1 million in revenue, and it's these high-powered entrepreneurs. At least I thought at the time. And I always told myself I didn't belong in these groups. I wore that bracelet to remind myself I belong. And what I noticed in this entrepreneur group is probably 50% of the people had written a book. And I was like, why haven't I written a book? Like, I've got something to say. Like, what's holding me back? And I thought for some reason, though, those are people different than me. But when I looked at that bracelet, I'm like, I belong in this group, so I can write a book. So after that, I decided to write a book. And I decided to write it about my entrepreneur journey and emotional intelligence. And I agree 100% with what you said. The book and the process of writing the book should be transformational. At least it's transformational for me, as well as anybody that reads it. But primarily, I think if you go through the process of writing the book, it will be transformational to you as the author. Not just like collecting your thoughts and analyzing your past and reflecting, but also getting something out there, a body of work for people to like leave whatever comments or whatever feedback they want. Getting over that hurdle was a big one for me, because you're always afraid it's not going to be good enough, or someone's going to complain, or it's not going to land right. That event made me step up, because I realized I'm no different than these people. My company was making over $1 million, and if they can write a book, I can write a book. So I wrote a book. I did self-publish.
Hmm.
I used a company called Scribe Media back in the day
Yep.
to help with the marketing and some of the editing and other things. So it's under their banner or whatever, Lion Crest, and that company went south, and I lost some money on a deal with them. But yeah, that's part of the process, is learning along the way. And then I did my second book, and I'm working on 2 other ones right now.
That's awesome. So the other thing what we learned, if you write a book, because we teach people how to write a book, not the book, and when you write your first one, there's very, very few people I have met afterwards who said, "Oh, I have 2, 3, 7." I just was on with a friend of mine earlier, and he said, "Oh, he has 7 on the market." He says, "I have 3 more in the hopper," and he's just constantly, because for me, I know with him, he was the guy which liked shortcuts. If you write a book, a shortcut doesn't work. You need to go through the process. Unfortunately, just is the way it is.
Right. Yeah.
And for me, I think he's a better operator and business owner now than he was prior to the book. And even if the book didn't sell a single copy, he made multiple 6 figures with his first book. Who he became. And he's really our poster child, where we were saying, as Peter wrote his book, he came to us and we thought, "Oh, nobody reads books like this anymore. 700 pages, you out of your mind. This is 7 books." Okay. And then I said, "Don't write about this because your expertise are this." And he said, "I always wanted to write about that." So it was for me, for me, one of the processes, and I encourage everybody to go through it. It doesn't really matter if you never sell a single book, but just the process of writing it is absolutely amazing. And I encourage anybody to do it. And for me, my head is off. I love that you have multiple books out there because it shows who you are. So now let me pivot back to Blue Goat Cyber. How did this thing go? How are you currently doing business? And tell our audience a little about it. What makes you different than so many other companies out there?
Well, I tried to learn from all the mistakes I made in my first business. I think I paid a lot of the dumb tax, as they say, on pretty much every front. With my first business, I thought everybody needs cybersecurity. I'm just going to start a cybersecurity business, and everybody would show up, knock on the door for business. It didn't work. It didn't work that way. So this business is a lot. I'm doing a lot smarter. I'm niched down. Our prospects are medical device manufacturers or investors that have a portfolio of medical device manufacturers. So we know exactly what problem we solve and who we resonate with. And we're in a very specific industry, medical device cybersecurity. So we don't have a lot of competitors. It's more of a blue ocean strategy. Like I consider myself in the med tech industry versus generic cybersecurity, because the field is very complicated. There's a lot of things to know, which are very unique to the field, which is a barrier of entry for most of my competitors in cybersecurity. They don't want to get into the field because it's too complicated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I've got the right messaging. I am a big fan of Donald Miller's story brand and brand script, and positioning ourselves as a guide versus a hero in the prospect's journey. So I've got that figured out. I know the market. My goal is to become the market leader this year. I've only got a couple competitors, and I feel like I'm hungrier than them. I've got more of the entrepreneur spirit, and I've got a better message than they do, and I have a better team. I think a lot of it is having the right team also.
Yeah.
And I've learned through my first company and that first book, what to look for in a team member, and how to hire an A player, and how to avoid those hiring mistakes. And then even if you make a mistake, how to get rid of somebody. The sooner you get rid of them, the better, even though it's a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, I'm totally agreed. I love that. So talk to us a little bit how you serve your customers better than anybody else, number one. So it's a two-pronged question. And if anybody looks at you, what is your competitive advantage over anybody else?
So we serve our customer base, our client base, better than anyone else for a couple of reasons. One, we do fixed fee pricing. There's no surprises.
Yeah,
we've been doing this long enough. We know the amount of effort. So with a quick discovery call, we can come up with a fixed fee price. And it doesn't matter how long it takes us, how many rounds of testing we have to do, how many back and forth we have to do with the client. The fee does not change. So from a budgetary perspective, because a lot of these innovators are getting investments, they know exactly what cybersecurity is going to cost. We also guarantee our work. So when we work with a manufacturer, the goal is to get cleared by the FDA in the United States or EU MDR in Europe. We are their partner until their device gets cleared and on the market, because they won't see revenue until their device is cleared and they can sell it on the market. So we partner with them through that whole journey. And if there's any questions from the FDA, we will address those. We will work with them until their device gets cleared at no additional cost. That's just part of our partnership program with our client. And we have never had a deficiency. So our submissions to the FDA have never resulted in them kicking back and say this isn't up to speed. We know exactly what they're looking for, and we have not had a deficiency. So we have a perfect track record, and we've done over 150 devices at this point, anything from a surgical robot to artificial intelligence, image enhancement software, or patient monitoring, or glucose monitoring, or even like neurostimulators in your brain. We pretty much have seen every type of product out there. And I would say the last thing is we focus on medical device cybersecurity, which is very different than traditional cybersecurity. Traditional cybersecurity cares about somebody stealing your credit card information or your health information. And it's kind of like, who cares? Medical device cybersecurity, we care about somebody hacking into something and killing a patient or harming a patient. The risk is much greater. So we have to apply a higher degree of rigor and scrutiny to our analysis in our methodology of assessing risk.
I absolutely love that. And for me, I'm sitting here and I'm hearing you talk about it. First off, I love that you're clear on who your customers and how you're going to serve them better than anybody else. How often, and this question goes to our listeners, how often do you feel your business, you need to get clearer, where you need to kind of button it down and say, hey, this is what makes me different. This is how I can serve my community like nobody else. And for me, that's why you're successful as you are, Christian, because you're really clear about that. And I absolutely love that. And by the way,
say how often I think about that?
Yeah, no,
it's per second. I feel like I'm never clear enough, or my message is never clear enough. There's always more clarity I can get. So it's always on my mind. I'm always trying to get better at it. Yes.
And full transparency, just before we started this, I had this with my team to kind of chunk it down, because I think we could become clearer in what we do. So, but I absolutely love the conversation. I could talk to you forever. But before we pivot, I want to play with you something called Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition, because I want them to know of how good you are in the kitchen and the preparing meals. But before we go, let us look a little bit behind the curtain. What is Christian working on, for the next 6 months? And what is Christian working on Blue Goat Cyber for the next 6 months?
For the next 6 months, I'm working on, I would say, reflecting, recalibrating, and regrouping in my life. I feel like 3 weeks ago, I was getting burned out. I didn't have enough balance. I wasn't paying attention to the things I need to pay attention to, and just kind of like pretending they didn't exist, but they're always like draining my energy. So yeah, this next 6 months is really about reflecting on the things I need to take care of. And those could be just emotional things, shadow work, as some people like to say, recalibrating and then regrouping so I can show up better for the next stage of my life. I feel like we constantly have to evolve. We get to a certain point and our business is going to kind of hold at that point until we evolve ourselves. And that's what I'm working on. And then the other things is my book. I have 2 books, one on medical device cybersecurity to further solidify my company as the authority in the space. And the other one is really about the story we tell ourselves and how to change that story if it's not serving you. As example, the blood clot story, where I was grateful to be alive for a while. That was a story I told myself, but it wasn't taking me where I wanted to go. So I had to shift that story. And it's more of a focused memoir on how I made those changes within my own life. And it's a constant thing. I have to change my story every day.
I love that. And for me, that is so amazing to hear that. And that's why I said in the beginning, as we started, as a Christian with a name like Christian, you will go places. And to our audience, isn't that amazing? Because if you take out cybersecurity and you put in hospitality, he could be successful in anything, because just the way he looks at serving customers better than anybody else. Also, the feedback loop. I love for me that you do that and you look at, hey, what's working, what's not working, and we need to pivot. And for me, that's the number one key to let people be or have people be successful in our food service industry. And I absolutely admire that about you. So with that, Christian, before we play rapid fire question food service edition, because I was looking forward to that all day, talk to us a little bit. How can people learn more about Blue Goat Cyber? How can they learn more about Christian and a little bit more on what you currently do?
Yeah, they can learn about Blue Goat Cyber on my company's website, bluegoatcyber.com. We're also very active on social media, particularly LinkedIn. For me, they can learn more about me on my personal brand website, christianespinosa.com. My books are on Amazon, and I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well. And my books are also on Audible as well, if you like to listen to books versus read them.
Awesome. I really want to say thank you for sharing all of your insights and some of your story, because I know our listeners going to learn a ton from that. And there's a lot of them which feel the way you do. They feel I need to pivot, or I can serve my community better if I do something else. And I find that's absolutely amazing. And I love that you keep writing books. It's absolutely amazing. So with that, are you up for playing rapid fire question, food service edition?
I am, yes.
So to our audience knows I have two really mean people behind me. They rewriting these questions for every single interview we do. So the way it works, Christian, 25 questions, and we ask you to rapid fire answer yes or no, and give us a why. Because for me, that shows not just that food is the great equalizer, and for me, I'm absolutely fascinated by that. But it allows our listeners to get a little bit more into who Christian actually is. So, are you up for it?
I am.
Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
23.
23. Okay. Is bacon ice cream a oh, I can't even say this. Is it an abomination or is it a revelation? Yes or no, and why?
What does an abomination mean? I don't even. I grew up in Arkansas, so my vocabulary is not that great.
I'm telling you, my people.
Abomination is a good thing.
I don't think it is. Oh my God, that's the best. Okay. I'm with you. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
19.
19. Should more dishes be named after famous people, like the Heartbreaker Pie? Yes or no, and why?
Yes, because if there is a story behind it, I think it makes sense and it adds something unique to the pie or the dish for sure.
Good save, because I worry about this question. So give me a number between 1 and 25.
8.
8. Should coffee be used to marinate steak? Yes or no, and why?
I think coffee, yes. Coffee grounds, I think, can be used, a little bit of those to marinate the steak, yes.
Awesome.
Plus you eat the steak and get a little bit of a coffee buzz at the same time.
I'm with you, because if you can get 2 for 1, absolutely spot on. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
3.
Oh, 3 is an oldie but goodie. Pineapple on the pizza. Yes or no, and why?
Yes, because I love Hawaiian style pizza with hot pineapple and Canadian bacon. Yes.
You saved it with the Canadian bacon. Otherwise, for me, it's a no. I know my fellow Austrian friend, Mr. Wolfgang Puck, made $600 million on that pizza, but I'd rather not. There's a movement of getting the pineapple off, but I love the Canadian bacon on it. Okay, last question. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
24.
Ooh, 24. If a dish is not Instagrammable, should it even be bothered to be eaten? Yes or no, and why?
Yes. Who cares about Instagram? If you like the dish, who cares what other people think?
I absolutely love that. And that completes rapid fire question food service edition. So first off, Christian, I really, really find this conversation fascinating. I love meeting other people which were in the military field. By the way, thanks for your service and all of the amazing things those people do. I also love meeting other fellow authors because I honestly believe more people need to write a book. And for me, you had that pivoting point where you should have given up or say, hey, I need to do something else. And you chose, I will do something else. Because there's a lot of people in that little pivot point, which saying, boo me, boo me, boo me, and never get out of it. So with that, I absolutely love that about you, Christian. That was an amazing conversation. You need to promise us to come back to do a 2.0 because we want to know what are some of the other books you're writing about. But before we wrap up for the day, if you meet somebody who is in that pivoting point, they just got dealt a really bad deal and they have an opportunity to do something else, what would you tell them as a word of wisdom?
What I like to do is think about if I'm lying on my deathbed, what regrets I'm going to have. And I would ask them something similar. And if they're going to have a regret about not making the change, then maybe they should make the change.
Yeah.
You have to zoom out of your life a little bit and look at it through a different lens. If you look at it through the lens that you always do, you're probably not going to move from where you are. So you have to look at it from a different perspective.
Love that. I absolutely love that. That was really good because for me, one of my sayings is I learned a long time ago, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And for me, it's nothing more clear than what you just said. So with that, Christian, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for sharing about your information, your story, and what you currently do with your business. I absolutely find that fascinating. Also, thank you for the gift of your time because for me, time is the great equalizer because it doesn't matter how good you are. We're not going to get more than 24 hours out of a day. So I really appreciate you sharing as freely as you did. Thanks for your really honest answers and your insight because I know there's a lot of our listeners here today which learn a ton, not just from what you talked about. They will learn that I have to overcome things all the time. And it doesn't matter what it is. What really matters is how I react to it and what does it mean to me. And for me, that was just a super powerful question. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for the gift of your time. We really appreciate you. And to our listeners, if you haven't done so, make sure you guys check out Christian's website. Also, if you haven't done so, make sure give him a follow because you guys will learn a lot about him. And there's a few other things he hasn't really shared with us yet, which I think we will get out of him on the next go around. So with that, until next time, you remember to disrupt your kitchen, fire up your career, and stay hungry for change. I'm Christian here with Christian. We are out of here. We are signing off. So be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. So with that, Christian, thanks for being here today. And to our audience, just go out there and be disruptive, everybody. Thanks for being here today.